Good evening. Welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. If you've been paying attention to the news lately, you're probably confused about a bunch of things, but you know one fact for sure. James Comey is a better person than you are. He's a virtuous man, honest, decent, chivalrous. Integrity might be his middle name, though he would never admit it because he's also incredibly humble. Comey doesn't make the kind of grubby moral compromises that characterize your sad, mediocre life. Like Lincoln or the Buddha, Comey's ideals are high, and he lives them. He has said that repeatedly in cable news interviews, so obviously it is true. How good a person is Jim Comey? Well, consider what he decided to do when he left the FBI. He's not giving lectures on law enforcement matters, on how to unravel international money laundering rings or stop drug trafficking. That would be too obvious, too temporal. Instead, Jim Comey is teaching the rest of us about leadership, how to be better people. His is a moral mission.
I could be useful by offering people a vision of what ethical leadership looks like.
It's hilarious, actually. But it's not that surprising. Keep in mind that hypocrisy is the signature fact of this moment, 2018. Whatever public figures are scolding you for doing, they are almost certainly doing themselves, and avidly, if in secret. The ones who lecture you about feminism turn out to be sexual predators. Every anti-gun activist seems to have an armed bodyguard. In a world like that, it is not surprising that James Mr. Integrity Comey left the FBI in an ethical cloud. The DOJ's long-awaited Inspector General's report apparently accuses Comey of ignoring the directives of his superiors, of being insubordinate in order to pursue his own agenda. That is not a small charge in a law enforcement agency, but again, it's not surprising in this case. Danny Colston is a former Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Colston, thank you for coming on.
No, thank you. I enjoyed your monologue. That was awesome.
Well, it was heartfelt. And none of this is surprising because it's always the people accusing you of something who are doing that very thing. But I still am a little shocked by what we know, what we think we know. I mean, there are leaks about this IG report, and we'll see. It's coming out 500 pages or so soon. But from what we think we know, Comey is being accused of insubordination, which is not a small thing in the FBI. Is that correct?
Oh, no, it's ground for dismissal. Absolutely. That's you have to follow orders, and they have to be lawful orders. But you're obliged to follow them. If you don't, then they get rid of you, and rightly so. So
assess what we think the IG report says about how he handled the Hillary Clinton email investigations in light of your own experience working on big investigations like Iran-Contra, which you were involved in. What do you think of the job he did?
Well, I think we'd have to do a term paper on that, Tucker. You could do a master's thesis on all the things that went wrong in that case. From the very first day he did his press conference where he exonerated Hillary Clinton and then reopened the case on the Anthony Weiner matter, we all knew that was wrong. That's something you don't do. You don't have to have the IG tell you that. If you ever commanded a major investigation or a field division, you know you do nothing that will affect the outcome of a political of an election. And he ignored that. I was flabbergasted when I saw him do it. And then we could go on and on and on about how he didn't let the FBI do his job. He acquiesced to not having a grand jury, which I was only there 31 years, and I never saw that, but maybe I missed something. And then he called it a matter, acquiesced to Loretta Lynch's demand that he called it a matter. You know, being a leader doesn't mean you sail in calm waters. Being a leader means you fight the headwinds, you fight the storms, and you lead your agency appropriately. He just didn't do that. He never put on his FBI hat. He always wore his Department of Justice hat and made decisions he had no business making. So I have a big problem with his
So I want to go back to something you just said. You said you were there for 31 years. You saw a lot of investigations take place, and you'd never seen a situation like this where a grand jury wasn't called. Is that what you said?
Absolutely, it's what I said. From the most minor investigation to those major investigations, you cannot do your job as an agent or a commander or a prosecutor without a grand jury. And the fact that this is a major investigation of national importance, and he acquiesced to not being allowed to have a grand jury, he should have gone to Congress. He should have demanded an independent counsel. He should have done a lot of things. You have to buck the headwaters sometime, and he didn't do that. And I think it frankly showed a lack of courage.
Why do you think they didn't want a grand jury?
They didn't want to find out what happened. But it's very simple. If you bring people in for the grand jury, you can get grand jury subpoenas. You can compel testimony. You can grant immunity. You can subpoena documents and information. And without that tool, you're just begging for cooperation. The FBI never looked at the Democratic Party the server that the Democrats had to manage that was supposedly hacked. They never got that. They said no. Well, if you don't have a grand jury, you're not going to get it. So, this isn't Boy Scouts going on and trying to sell you some candy or something. When the FBI comes with a grand jury subpoena, you comply. And if you don't have a grand jury subpoena, you're not going to find out what happened, and clearly they did not.
What this story is needed from day one is perspective on how the FBI in functional times operates, and you just provided that, and I really appreciate it. Mr. Colson, thank you for that.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.